Helluva Boss has to be one of my favorite television shows currently airing. From the smart and witty comedy, the chemistry between the characters, and the memorable songs. Seriously, Vivian, make a soundtrack already. Helluva Boss has everything I could ever want in a television show. And now with 2 seasons out, I thought I'd share what I consider the best episodes of the show. Now this list might offend some people, but hey, I wouldn't be on the internet if I didn't want to offend somebody. Number 5, Cherubs. Look, I know a lot of people dislike this episode, and I get why. It's because the cherubs themselves are terrible villains. But hear me out. This episode is actually pretty funny. I think it's the funniest episode in the whole entire show, next to Spring Broken. But everything about this episode is just super hilarious to me. From the nature scene to the imp's disguises, this episode has made me laugh out loud so many times, and I almost fell out my chair. That's why this episode is great. It's mostly the humor. I could care less about the plot, you know? Capitalism sucks. But hey, the humor is what you need to come here for. Especially the scene where the guy almost dies by the piano. That was hilarious because the piano ends up following him. Sorry, I almost gave the joke away. But seriously, if you want to laugh out loud so hard, you need to give this episode a try. Now, it might not do anything to the overarching plot, and we don't know if the cherubs are ever going to come back. But honestly, who cares? I love a little standalone comedy here every once in a while. And if you want to laugh out loud, just watch this episode, because this episode will make you laugh out loud. Now, I'm not saying it's the best episode ever, but to me, this episode is actually pretty funny. So if you're not doing anything right now, you need a good laugh, watch this episode, because I'm guaranteeing you that you will be laughing out loud throughout your whole entire night. Number 4, Spring Broken. Now hear me out, Spring Broken is actually a pretty hilarious episode, but also heartwarming. It's not as funny as the last episode, Cherubs, but this episode is actually pretty good, especially the heartwarming moments between Luna and Blitzo. We don't really see Luna in a more vulnerable light, so to see her in this kind of light was actually pretty refreshing. And also, I think another great thing about this episode is Veronica Mayday herself, played by the wondrous Christina V, who also plays Marinette Dupain-Chang in Miraculous Ladybug, another show that I like. This episode explores Blitz's ex-relationships that he had, one of them at least, that he had with Veronica. Man, I keep getting the names mixed up. Veronica, but you know what I mean. I think that she plays as one of the great foils against Blitz, same with Stryker. Why Veronica works is that she just tells it how it is. She has no filter, and I like that about her character. I love mean girl characters. Sue me. But Christina V plays a great mean girl character in this episode. And honestly, if you just want to see someone who's sad, just watch this episode because it's going to give you a great time. Number 3, Truth Seekers. This episode is actually one of the best episodes of the show. I would have put it at number 1 if it wasn't for 2 other episodes that have exceeded expectations with the show. Truth Seekers is what really got me invested into the show. The mystery, the drama, the tension, and the musical number. Oh my god, that musical number. It is the best song in the series. This episode is so good that it made me wonder, who is Dorks? Is this going to lead to the main villains of the show? Man, I really want to explore more about my theories about Dorks, but that video is coming soon. This episode also gives us an intense moment between Blitzo and Moxie, where they both let each other know how they really feel. We also get to see the first kiss between Blitzo and Stolitz, which is what I might say, quite This episode also has an intense fight scene at the end that was so intense that it left me at the edge of my seat. Seriously, this episode took so long to come out, but I really understand why. It's just such a good episode. Also, before season 2 came out, this is the longest episode of the show, so I can see why, especially because of that Disney animated musical number towards the end. Man, that was so good. I love that musical number. But I need to stop gushing about this episode. There's 2 more left, and I bet you're all wondering what the last 2 are going to be. Number 2, the pilot. Look, I know a lot of people might be shocked for me to say this, but I think the pilot is up there as one of the great episodes of Helluva Boss. It might not be outstanding or heartbreaking like the later episodes of the show, but I think that the pilot is pretty funny. And I view the comedy of Helluva Boss as more important than the serialized nature, because this show was advertised as a comedy. And that's what the pilot succeeds in, comedy. It introduces everything, even though some things might have changed, such as Stolas' voice actor, but it works. I actually think that this pilot is canon. I know that a lot of people might not think it's canon because of some of the few changes, but I do 100% believe that this is a canon pilot. Another reason as to why this pilot works is because I felt intense chemistry between the characters. I actually think that Millie's voice in this episode is better than the one in the actual show. It's southern, but it's not obnoxious about it. And I know people might be coming after me because of my opinion on this, but this pilot is pretty good. Most times, pilots aren't actually the best in some of the worst episodes of the show, but this has to be one of the greatest pilots out there, and I will die on this hill that this pilot is amazing. Now, I know I've already may have pissed some people off already, but I still stand by what I said. This is an amazing pilot, and it's a great start to the series. 1, the Harvest Moon Festival. Look, I know a lot of people might not like to hear this, but I think that the Harvest Moon Festival is better than Lululand. The Harvest Moon Festival has everything that makes Helluva Boss Helluva Boss. Comedy, action, seriousness, heartwarming moments. It's a great episode that encompasses everything about this show. That is why I like this episode so much. It has nothing to do with Stryker. Okay, I'm kidding. Stryker's everything about this episode. Lonis Renes plays a great job. It's Norman Reedus. I don't know why I said that. I'm kind of slipping on the names today. Please forgive me. I'm kind of nervous because it's my first long-form video. But hey, you know what? Ignore that. Now back to the episode. This episode also introduces the Stella plot. Well, it's been introduced in episode 2, but this episode really moves the plot forward for the rest of the series. And it actually shows, in another controversial opinion, that Stella has always been this way. There was never this deep thing with Stella and Stolas. No, the show has always been forward about Stolas being a terrible person. But I'm also not here to get on that hill right now. But anywho, in my opinion, this is the best episode of the show. And if I'm going to introduce anyone to the show, it would be this episode. Because I think this episode explains everything pretty well. While you might need to watch every episode of the show first to understand things better, I think this episode does a great job. It works as a pilot. It sets everything up, especially for a story-driven show that this show has become after this episode. So, this is my favorite episode of the show, and I'm glad that you all came here to listen to my list. Thank you, everyone, for all the support you have shown me over the last few days as I get ahead of this whole YouTube thing. I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just making videos, just to make videos. So please, thanks for all the support, and leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time with a video about, I don't know, there will be a video. Peace.